Well, hello, and I hope this video finds you well. Today I want to talk to you about why so many of us will choose the wrong person to marry. You don't need to have masochistic tendencies or an adrenaline junkie mindset. In fact, you don't even need to do anything more than just be yourself. For many of us, sometimes even as early as when the dopamine high of the honeymoon period wears off, we find ourselves faced with the prospect of financial ruin, shattered self-esteem, and for some people, homelessness or suicide as a result of having married the wrong person. Sure, it all looks like fun when you see the couple in their bridal finery, their eyes bright with hope and good intentions. Everyone is wishing them well, with the exception of the jaded divorcee who pragmatically yet accurately predicts that there's more than a 40% chance of this not working out. Probably an even higher number are going to wish that they'd saved all that money to buy a house with instead. I mean, it does seem like a lot of money to be spending when you consider the odds, doesn't it? Maybe society should collectively create a new tradition and only throw the big celebration maybe after year 5 when they're both together really happy. Anyway, choosing our partner is without a doubt the most important thing that we can do for our future happiness and success. And it's also the most important interview that we can conduct. Yet almost half of us get it wrong. And it's not because we're incompetent, it's because we're wounded. All efforts to avoid self-sabotage end at the beginning of our dating interview, the significance of which eludes most of us. Armed with nothing more than our hormones and for most of us a highly dysfunctional relationship blueprint, the current trend is to show up alone to meet a perfect stranger, and for many of us women, as long as he's relatively attractive, financially solvent and seems to really like us, he passes muster. For some well-intentioned yet misguided desire not to infringe on our freedoms, each successive generation is left to their own devices to see what kind of catastrophe they can make out of their relationship, with none of the insight gained by the generation before us who have made exactly the same mistakes that we have. Truth be told, they probably are the reason we can't have a functional relationship in the first place, as were their parents for them and for the generation that went before. The biggest predictor of unhappy relationships are unhappy experiences at the hands of our significant caregivers during our formative years, often unintentionally and certainly thoughtlessly, at a time where they should have been giving us unconditional love, validation, and protection. They either neglected us, criticized and punished us, or gave us a confusing mix of the two. Even those with happy memories won't have been completely unscathed. In order to survive this, both emotionally and physically, we develop coping strategies that sadly ensure that our most intimate future relationships will fail. You can download a free assessment from the link below to figure out what yours and your partner's relationship blueprint might look like. It's pretty unrealistic to expect that, given what happened to so many of us as children, we should then be able to avoid making mistakes as we look for love as adults. The best we can hope for is a true appreciation of how messed up most of our love radars are, and how we do ourselves a disservice if we expect to fly on autopilot, allowing our instincts to run the show when we first start dating. So here's a breakdown of the main problems for us. Firstly, our lack of discernment. Those rare people who had more highly functioning parents and therefore a more highly functioning love radar are not exempt from making bad choices in whom they date. Even someone who's a terrible choice can be charming at first, but these other people manage to extricate themselves easily once they realize their mistake. Those of us with a damaged radar keep flying by the seat of our pants with no idea of what we should be looking out for. Those telltale signs that this is not a good candidate, and that if we stay too long, we'll get hooked by that oxytocin addiction and our misguided hope that things will get better if we just try a little harder. This is fostered by the next problem. We don't really like ourselves. Due to our lack of unconditional love from our parents, it follows that most of us don't love ourselves much either. This keeps us trapped in this cycle of vacillating between over-functioning in the relationship because we think it's our fault, read not lovable enough, and getting really angry with our partners for letting us down or withholding love or being mean to us or lying to us. Unlike those securely attached people, it doesn't really occur to us to say after the fourth or fifth major disappointment, I'm noticing a pattern here and I don't think you're right for me. Goodbye. Instead, unknowingly, we enable the behavior because even if our tirades when we're angry say, this is unacceptable, our behavior tells them otherwise when we stay. They also can't help thinking, well, if you don't love yourself enough to leave me when I treat you that way, why should I love you enough to treat you any better? It may take 10 years for us to realize what the securely attached person could realize by the end of the first or second date. We are so focused on them not leaving us, we fail to see that we should leave them. And this is exacerbated by the next point. We don't want to be alone. Due to our low regard for ourselves, we're not sure we'll find somebody else who wants to be with us. In fact, we're not even sure we want to be with ourselves, because that's what being alone is. And if we can't be okay with our own company and we don't think we'll find anyone else, the prospect of being alone becomes much more than we can bear. And there's no chance of becoming available so that we can find someone better. Even if we do, this next problem will surely undermine us. Most of us who have been poorly parenting see kindness as a weakness. Even if we do find the strength to leave this person who's treated us badly, there's a high likelihood that we'll just choose someone else who'll do something similar, because we see kindness as boring. We'll instinctively feel turned off by them, and for us there will be no passion with this person, because we learned very early on to equate love with pain. And until we make a concerted and conscious effort not to do so, we will be forever attracted to the bad boys and girls, the ones who will mistreat us and let us down. Our capacity to be loved and valued by another is directly proportional to our capacity to love and value ourselves. How forgiving are you to somebody's mistreatment? Don't blame yourself. Instead, understand that you need to take that very unfamiliar step and to start to treat yourself well. How willing are you to consciously and consistently stop doing what your impulses tell you and to rewrite your love scripts? The first step to understanding the power of story and recognize the impact that our stories have on our lives. I hope you'll join me next week and we'll explore why it's vital to understand how we've crafted and how we share our own life story.